Awesome. 1 times 9, 3 squared. Love that. Let's see. Tara, are you able to drop the link for the 3rd through 5th grade PD in here, or send it to this?
I'll drop it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
And just so everyone knows, we're recording this so that anyone who's not able to attend can still access all this information. So I'll grab the chat I'll put that in the chat for the 3rd to 5th grade PD.
Thank you. All right. Nice. Okay, so, 100 minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 for 91 ones equals 9. Love it. All right, so this is just sort of a little bit of a taste of what you might be doing with your students this summer as an opener. We'll talk more about what an opener is and the different parts of the lessons, but I'm going to go ahead and have us get started. If you've just joined, if you could make sure that your microphone is on mute. We will keep our microphones muted just so that everybody's able to hear me clearly and there's not any feedback. The PowerPoint is available in the chat. You may need to scroll up to the top. But there is a note-taking form, and there should also be or will be the actual PowerPoint itself in case you need to follow along on your own screen if for some reason the PowerPoint isn't presenting for your computer. All right, so as Tara mentioned, this is being recorded, so it will be uploaded to Schoology. If you are here, hopefully you're able to see everything. If not, though, you can access it on Schoology. And there will also be, this PowerPoint will also be uploaded to Schoology after our training is over. It is also located in the chat if you would like to follow along or take notes. All right, so good morning and thank you for joining us for our Summer of Learning Math Professional Development for kindergarten through 2nd grade educators. I'm going to go ahead and get us started with some introductions. This summer, if you are not familiar with Summer Staircase or Summer of Learning Math, we use Math for Love's curriculum, which is created by Dan Finkel and Catherine Cook. And if you are familiar with them, you might not know that they just welcomed a little baby Maple into their family, so that's exciting for them. And here's a picture. So yeah, we will be looking at a lot of the aspects of Math for Love. I'll be covering logistics as well as the actual curriculum itself and how you'll be using it. If you just joined and could make sure that your microphone is muted, that would be fantastic. Thank you. So this is me. My name is Britta. I teach 1st grade at BF Day Elementary. And I worked on the kindergarten through 2nd grade math curriculum for Summer of Learning this year. And Kenneth, to the right of my picture, is the 4th and 5th grade math teacher at BF Day. So he and I worked together, and we worked together on this as well to just sort of develop plans for how you will be able to use Math for Love this summer. So he's in charge of the 3rd through 5th grade. I'm in charge of the kindergarten through 2nd. And it was really an awesome opportunity to be able to have to,
What are you barking at?
To work on getting this all set up. And if you just joined, if you could make sure that your microphone is muted, that would be super helpful. Thank you so much. Yeah, so it's been fun to get to work with a curriculum that is so focused on engaging all students and providing a positive math experience for students. Some shout outs while we wait for everybody else to join. Thank you to this year's video creators, Monica Silver, Chris Robert, Kristen Cater, and Emily Cordova, Megan Wan, Sarah Allen, and Kyle Jackson II. And a shout out to Miss Tara Hoffman, who is my wingwoman right now, helping me through this presentation. So we will go ahead and move on to our agenda. Again, if you would like to follow along and take notes or look at this PowerPoint if it is not presenting on your screen, both of those are located in the chat. There's a PDF with a note-taking form, and there is also this actual PowerPoint in the chat if you scroll up to find it.
Britta, can you, I think I can't put things in the chat anymore. I don't know if something changed in the settings, or just email the PowerPoint one more time. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I can insert the PowerPoint probably. Let's see if I can. Maybe not. Whoop. Okay, I'll email it again, Tara. I don't think anything changed in the settings, but let me just check in the meeting options to make sure that it's still, let's see. Meeting chat. It says enabled, so okay. I'll send it again.
I'll get it in there. Sorry.
No worries. All right. Thank you for your patience. So we are going to be looking at a lot of things today with Math for Love, and just a moment while I forward this to Tara. Here we go. Okay. So we'll go over the purpose of Summer of Learning Math, and as well as the purpose of Math for Love, talk about some meeting guidelines. We'll look at the suggested daily schedule, materials, and a suggested room layout for in-person as well as remote. Sorry about that. And we will look at the lesson structure for the Math for Love lessons, as well as the scope and sequence that we're suggesting you follow. We'll look at where you can find all of these materials and how you might use them. If you've just joined, if you could make sure that your microphone is muted, please and thank you. We will play a sample game, look at Seesaw and how we'll be using it this summer, and talk about where you can find support, where or who can provide support for you while you're teaching math this summer. And then there'll be a few places for me to stop to answer questions. So if you want to just hold on to your questions or write them down and then save them for, or I guess actually you can type them into the chat as you come up with questions, and Tara will help me figure out which questions I should answer, which ones are sort of the most relevant, and also which ones I have answers to right away. There may be questions that I don't have answers to, in which case I will find the answer, Tara, and I will figure out the answer and get back to you. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get started. So just some meeting guidelines. Make sure that you're staying engaged. Also, stay hydrated because it is so hot. I hope that you are all surviving the heat. And if you're comfortable, keep your camera turned on. I know that just having experienced virtual learning, it is a lot easier to hold yourself accountable, at least for me, when my camera is turned on. Keep the chat use to a minimum, except for questions. Questions are great, but throwing in little comments can get hard to track which questions are being asked. So put your questions in the chat. Otherwise, we will refrain from using that too much. Try to stay solution oriented, and then please stay muted. So it looks like Danielle Riley has a hand up.
Sorry. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm sorry. It sounds like, Miss Steele, it sounds like we're all I don't know about everyone else, but most people have said we cannot see the PowerPoint. I can see what you're presenting just fine, but if you had a second to maybe put it in the chat, we don't want to miss out on what you're saying. And I think, I'm not sure if everyone can, Miss Tara, it sounds like she's trying, but I've been there, can't access it, and it's like so frustrating as like the person assisting the other teacher. So anyway, thank you.
Let me see, I'll take a moment and see if I can, let's see if I can get it to go.
You know, I might leave the meeting and come back because maybe something happened with adding it in.
Okay, sure.
So I'll just try leaving and coming back and see if that helps. Thanks for your patience, everybody.
Yeah.
And Miss Hoffman, I wonder if you can't see the one that's linked to the actual math PD, sometimes the purple and white screen in the background is easier for seeing. Anyway, I know you're recording, so I'll stop now. You guys got this.
Thank you. Thanks for the heads up. I will, let's see, I'm trying to figure out, maybe if I go into, you know what, let's see if I can enter it from here. Thank you for being patient, everybody. I'm going to try to see if I can attach it. Well, I'll let Tara figure that out. Okay, so we'll just pause for a moment so that Tara can log back in and then get that put into the chat, hopefully. I can also stop sharing my screen and see if that helps. Let's see, I'll stop presenting and start again to see if that helps people see the PowerPoint. Just give me one moment. Thank you for your patience. All right. Let's see. In terms of links in the chat, we are working on getting the link to this PowerPoint as well as a note-taking PDF. We are getting those put into the chat. So I just reshared my screen. Maybe this will help. I hope so. Otherwise, Tara's working on getting that put into the chat. Right now, once it does get put in there, we are on slide 10, about to move on to the purpose, if you cannot see my screen. Okay, so we'll go over the student goals for Summer of Learning Math as well as educator goals. One of the biggest focuses of Math for Love as well as our Summer of Learning Math program is that we want students to have fun and grow a positive experience with math. So that students who have maybe struggled with math in the past or just they haven't found a way to really enjoy it, that they are figuring out that math can be fun. There's a focus on games to help make it fun, and students will practice math fact fluency as well as conceptual understanding through games, exploration, and discourse. And we also really want to encourage the student connection with each other, with educators as well, but specifically with the other students in their classroom or in their group, just especially considering that some students have been out of school for more than a year. And even if they were in person, we only had a few weeks. So just encouraging that connection piece. For educator goals, we want to make sure that we are asking probing questions. Math for Love does a really great job of providing a lot of questions that dig deeper into understanding. We want to make sure that we are engaging all students with math, not just students who are more comfortable with it or feel more successful. Again, linking back to that, making sure that the experience is fun. And again, so ensuring that students are having fun during their math lessons. I'm going to pause. Tara, did you have any luck figuring out how to get that put into the chat?
No, I can't put anything in the chat, but I'm working on it, everyone. I'm so sorry. Just be patient. I'll figure it out.
Okay. Should I would you like me to try to see if I can figure, oh, let's see.
I just don't have the attached feature in the chat for some reason.
I don't either. I don't know why. I wonder if I can drag and drop. Let me try. Thank you for your patience. Let's see. Well, so while we do that, while I try to get this dropped into the chat, let's see. Okay, let me see if I can drag and drop this in. Nope, it won't let me. Okay, well, here we go. We'll keep working and Tara's gonna problem solve for us. All right, so we'll talk some about suggested schedules, or what the schedule will be, then a suggested breakdown for the morning, and then look at a room layout that might be helpful depending on which adults you have in your classroom, and then look at materials as well. Let's see. Okay. So if you are an in-person educator, you will start with students at 9 o'clock and end at 12:30. There will be breakfast provided before and lunch after. You'll notice that this slide is broken up between Monday and then Tuesday through Friday. So on Mondays, as you probably have heard, there's a longer SEL lesson to focus on student engagement or connection with each other. So that will be a 20-minute lesson, or around 20 minutes. So Monday's schedule is a little bit different than Tuesday through Friday, just because that SEL lesson is longer. So then there's this opener, which if you were here at the very beginning, we played a game called Target Number, which is an example of an opener. On Mondays, you will have 45 minutes, or suggested 45 minutes, to work on the activities and games. That might be in rotations or small groups. It might be in whole group, depending on how many adults you have in your classroom. And then there's the closer, and then a chance to clean up. Then teachers or students will go outside to recess. Teachers will sanitize desks to swap for the second session. You'll notice that both on the Monday schedule and the Tuesday through Friday schedule, the SEL lesson component moves from the beginning down to the end. So for the second session, you'll start with an opener as opposed to starting with an SEL lesson. Again, on Monday, there's that 45-minute block of time. You might do 3 15-minute rotations, or you might do whole group. We'll talk about what that might look like in a couple of slides. A closer to wrap up the lesson, the SEL closer, and then time to clean up again. And Tuesday through Friday is the same order of events, essentially, but this length of this time for activities and games is 15 minutes longer. So you have an hour on Tuesday through Friday, or about an hour, to get in those activities and games. So we will look at, if you are in a classroom with a teacher, an instructional aide, and a tutor, congratulations. There's also, though, a chance that you might be in a classroom with just a teacher and an instructional aide, or just the teacher. And I know that might not be ideal. Unfortunately, I'm not in charge of that. Hopefully you know which setup you will be working with. So here's just a suggested sort of breakdown. Ideally, Math for Love is taught in smaller groups or in rotations. With COVID protocols, that's kind of hard to accomplish, but we have some suggestions for how you might do that. So again, as I mentioned, on Mondays, if you have 3 adults in your classroom, you might be able to accomplish 3 15-minute rotations, and you'll have the adults rotate. I'll show you what that might look like in a classroom in a moment. And then Tuesday through Friday, you might be able to manage 3 20-minute rotations. So that is, that's for teacher, IA, and tutor. We'll look at teacher, IA, and then teacher, only teacher separately in a moment. But if you do have 3 adults, you might consider setting up your classroom like this, sort of clustering your desks in 3 groups of 4. You shouldn't have more than 12 students. And you might have, thanks. So Tara says, if anyone is in need of this PowerPoint, if you aren't able to see it, she'll directly email it to you. I'm sorry that we're not able to figure this out. Maybe just let her know in the chat if you need it and she can send out an email. Thanks, Tara. Once you get that, we are currently on slide 15. So you would have the adults rotate. So the teacher would move from like this blue desk section after 15 or 20 minutes to the red desk section to deliver the same content. And then the IA would also rotate so that all of the students are getting the content, but they're not having to move desks so that there's not that need to sanitize. Okay. If you, oops, I keep doing that. If you are in a classroom with just a teacher and an instructional aide, you might consider doing 2 22-minute rotations on Mondays. So there's that 45-minute chunk of time. You can break it into 2 22 and 23 minutes, maybe approximately 20 minutes. Instead of doing 3 small groups, so you could do 2. And on Tuesdays through Fridays, you could have 2 30-minute groups. And you'll notice that the opener and the closer are always run by the teacher. They're always teacher taught. So the main difference, if you have an instructional aide and or tutor, is just during this small group rotation time and how you'll deliver that. So if you are in a classroom with 2 adults, you might consider setting up your classroom like this, so that you have 2 groups of 6 as opposed to 3 groups of 4. And the teacher, again, would rotate. You might take your materials with you. The teacher might take their materials with them to deliver the content. And yeah, depending on which day it is, you'll spend different amounts of time in with those small groups of students. Tara, are you able to see my PowerPoint? Okay, so some people must be able to, I hope. Okay. If you are in a classroom with just a teacher, there are a few options. So you could either divide that on Mondays, that 45-minute chunk, you could divide it into 15-minute. Thank you for the reassurances, people can see it. Okay. You can divide that 45 minutes into 3 15-minute portions. So you might start with your activity, then for 15 minutes, whole group, teach your game for 15 minutes, whole group, and then students could finish up if they didn't finish something or work on a choice game for the last 15 minutes. So you are able to deliver this content whole group. Or I know some teachers are really experienced with Math for Love and they might feel comfortable leading small groups or rotations. Oh my gosh, thank you. Someone it looks like Danielle added the PDF. Thank you, yay, I hope everybody else can access it. We are on slide 18 if you are able to open that. Thank you so much, oh my gosh, teamwork. Okay, so you could deliver it whole group or you can, if you're comfortable, you can try out rotations, obviously. Do what's going to work best for you. And this is kind of like a womp womp layout. It's like, not very exciting. But again, you are, of course, free to use whichever room layout works for you as you're comfortable. So if you wanted to, even if it's just you in the classroom, if you wanted to do the 3 small groups or the 2, totally go for it. Okay, so I'll pause for questions in about 2 slides. I'm sure there are probably a lot. But if you are a remote teacher, thank you for hanging in there while I went over all of the in-person stuff. And in-person teachers, thank you for hanging in there while I cover remote. The block of time is the same, but because there's not a need for sanitizing, there is more time for a couple of things. We also needed to block in time for the Seesaw assignment portion of the remote learning. So you'll notice that it's the same beginning for Mondays and for Tuesdays through Fridays. You have that either 20-minute or 5-minute SEL lesson, the quick opener, and then the activity for remote teachers. It's up to you, your discretion, if you want to deliver this content small or whole group. It might depend on if you have an instructional aide working with you. It would be easier, right, to split your group of students into two and have one group work with you and the other group work with the instructional aide, or vice versa. Or if it's just you delivering content remotely, then feel free to teach these activities and games whole group. So the plan, we sort of decided, or the best breakdown for the Seesaw assignments would be about 15 minutes. So depending on which day, the time is a little bit different, but students should have about 15 minutes to complete their Seesaw assignment. We'll talk more about that and the purpose of using Seesaw a little bit later on, but so the main difference is the length of activity or of the activity delivery time. So 9:30 to 9:45 that's 15 minutes on Mondays, and then just like in person, you have 20 minutes for Tuesdays through Fridays. Same thing for the game, and so 15 minutes to teach the game or model it on Mondays, and 20 minutes to model the game on Tuesdays through Fridays. We are almost to our question segment, so one more slide. Suggested materials. So suggested teacher or educator materials, it's going to be super helpful if you have a document camera, whether you are in person or remote. If you are in person, a projector would be helpful to be able to show what you are trying to film on your document camera. If this is not available for you in the classroom that you're working in, you should be able to use a PowerPoint and use that with your projector. I'll show you what that looks like later, how you might model games without a document camera. Then it will be helpful to have a whiteboard and and markers, especially if you have more than one adult and you are rotating, being able to take that whiteboard and marker with you. So you might just want to use a smaller student whiteboard. Students will each get a kit of grade level materials. For kindergarten through second grade, they will receive pattern blocks, dice, pencils, and their student packet. They'll receive two-sided counters, square tiles, tiny polka dot cards, which if you're not familiar with them, it's a deck of cards that has different representations of the numbers 0 through 10. And then a whiteboard. So those are the materials. Students, again, will have their own set of materials. I think it's, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go to questions. If you've not entered a question into the chat and you have one, go ahead. I have, let's see. So one question I see is, in the provided curriculum materials, will there be suggestions about how those of us teaching alone can run these activities? Yes. So, we'll look at what's available on Schoology and in a few slides. I'll I'll show you what there is. So there's a suggested scope and sequence, and then there is a grade level PowerPoint that has each game and activity in there so that you can use that to model if you'd like. But I would say basically the main suggestion if you are teaching this your classroom alone would be to think about doing whole group, and these games and activities are all doable whole group. Do we still have to space desks 6 feet apart? I believe so. Tara, is that correct? Yes. Yes. So let's see. How are we to sanitize supplies between small groups? Students have their own supplies, so you shouldn't need to sanitize between rotations. They can just keep their supplies with them at their seat, and you can take your supplies with you as you move. So there shouldn't be a need to sanitize in between like those 15 or 20-minute small group rotations. For the opener, in the curriculum, there are games and discussions that are planned for each day. So at the beginning of this PD, we looked at one called Target Number. There's another called Guess My Number. There's sort of free-form games that can be adapted to either remote or in person, but also adapted to the needs of your students. So if you have a group of kiddos that's maybe not ready to start thinking about place value yet, then you might focus on one of the other games or one of the other opener games. So those are laid out in the curriculum and they are explained. There's a lesson plan for each of them. After recess, we get a new group of students coming to our link. I believe that is accurate for remote teachers. It's definitely accurate for in person. You'll have a session 1 group of students and a session 2, and you'll sanitize in between. But I would assume that is the case, but I'm not positive. I can look into that. I'm going to highlight that on my document so that I remember to answer it. Okay. Materials delivery for remote students. The supplies are at the sites. I think for remote students, I'm not positive on if families are coming to pick them up from school or if they have been delivered to their homes. I'm not sure about that. I can also highlight that to make sure I get an answer.
Yeah, we'll just make a list of questions that we're not able to answer and send the answers out to everyone as we gather them.
Perfect. Thanks, Tara. The Math for Love curriculum is available as a PDF on Schoology. If you would like to print it out, obviously you are free to do so. You might want to try to print it at a school site so that you're not doing that on your home printer. But it is available. And let's see, the pre-assessment. We will be talking about assessment in a few slides. The pre-assessment and post-assessment looks a little bit different for kindergarten versus 1st and 2nd grade. I'll talk about that in a little while. But if you are remote, you'll be able to assign it via Seesaw. And if you are in person or remote, students will have that assessment in their student packet to work on. Okay, those are all the questions that I see for now. So I'm going to go ahead and move us on to where you can find these materials and how you might use them.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt. I guess I do mean to interrupt. I'm Brenda. I'm at John Muir Elementary. Using Seesaw in person, will each student have their own computer?
You aren't going to need, you shouldn't need to use Seesaw in person for the students. I'll show you a way to use Seesaw to model a lesson if you don't have teacher materials and you want to project it onto a screen. You could use Seesaw in person. But really the only reason you might want to assign it to a student for in-person would be if they missed something or they were absent. But really the Seesaw is for remote students. Thanks, good question.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so Schoology is going to hold everything that all of the materials that you will need. So it will have your grade level curriculum. It will have a scope and sequence that has video links. So these Math for Love curriculum guides were designed to be 16 days long. As you know, Summer of Learning this summer is 19 days. So there are about three lessons per grade level that have been stretched into 2 days. I'll show you how you'll read the scope and sequence and what it will look like if there are extra materials or extra worksheets that you might need to split that into 2 days. But we'll get to that in a moment when I show you an example of what that looks like. There are videos of almost every activity and game. The openers and closers do not have video links, but there are videos for almost every activity and game. I think there are for all of them for kindergarten through second grade. There's a student packet, so the materials, the paper packet that students will have with their worksheets, and that also includes the assessment pages. There's a document with all of the Seesaw links. So if you are teaching remotely, there's a Word document it's a PDF on Schoology that has links to all of the activities and games as a Seesaw assignment. Oopsies. And last, there's a grade level PowerPoint that has a slide for each activity and game. And some of them you can use this to model how to play the game or how to complete the activity. I'll show you what that looks like when we do an example game. So on Schoology, you will go to your groups. You will then go to your groups and click Join Group. This is the access code. So Tara, could you type that into the chat? Just so that I know that people may be able to look at this on their own PowerPoint. Hopefully that's the case. But then it's in there just in case. All right, so you'll access the Summer of Learning Schoology group, and it will look like this. So you'll go to Resources and choose the grade level that you will be teaching or that you're working with. So in this example, we're looking at kindergarten. So we'll click kindergarten. And then under the kindergarten folder, or in that folder, there is an ELA folder and a math folder. So you'll click math, go to teacher curriculum materials. And then, so here's what all of those elements look like. So there's the curriculum for kindergarten at the top, Math for Love curriculum kindergarten. There is the kindergarten math teaching sequence. So the suggested order in which you teach this curriculum, as well as the video links, are in this scope and sequence. There is the kindergarten interview assessment. So again, we'll talk more about assessments in a few slides. For right now, what I will say is that kindergarten is the only grade that has a separate assessment PDF. Every other grade has the assessment embedded inside of the curriculum guide. There's a PDF of the student packet so that you can see what worksheets students have to work on, or print it out if you wanted to. There is a PDF of all of the Seesaw links, for the activities and games that you will need for your grade level. And then at the bottom, there is the kindergarten math activities and games PowerPoint. So though that will have the all of the games and activities and a suggested way to model them on the computer. So we talked about Math for Love being designed to be student-centered and responsive. We want to give you permission to focus on what it is that your class needs. Feel free to repeat a lesson if you need, or maybe not jump ahead, but to sort of advance some of the materials or add in questions if you have students who need that. Feel free to be flexible. Do what's going to be best for your class, for you, but mostly for your class. And then I know I'm about to open a big can of worms here. What if there are grade level splits? There might be. Hopefully you already know if that is the case for you. My suggestion, if that is the boat that you're in, would be to look at both grade levels and find the games and activities that overlap. There are a lot of them. And in many cases, they're on different days. So for example, you might have pattern block fill-in on day 5 for first grade and on day 2 for second grade. But you can feel free to move those around and deliver the content that matches on the same day, as is going to be best for you. You might also consider splitting students into small groups based on grade level. So if you were teaching first and second graders, you might have a group of first graders and then a group of second graders, and you could cluster them in that sort of 2 small group formation that I showed. And you could rotate delivering the activity to the first grade students and then the other second grade activity to the second grade students. And if you have another adult, then you could have that adult lead the game for the first graders and then the accompanying game for second grade. So just permission to problem solve a grade level split as is going to work best for your students. But those are just a couple of suggestions. Okay, we're going to keep going and then we'll have another question break in a little bit. For lesson structure, scope and sequence, and assessment, let's look at, here is an example. So this is where it says day 3, opener, activity, game, closer. This is a screenshot from the scope and sequence document for, I think this is from second grade. So you'll notice that, let's see if I can draw on my screen here, that Flower Petal Puzzles and Power.pro, those are blue, so they are hyperlinked. You can click those to find the instructional video if you are curious about how to enact these lessons. But you'll also notice that down here at the bottom, this is just a screenshot of that schedule we looked at before. This is for in-person, but remote also had these same blocks of time, right? The opener, which up here on day 3 for this grade will be guess my number. So that's what you would teach from 9:20 to 9:30 if it's Monday, or 9:05 to 9:15 if it's Tuesday through Friday. The activity for this day would be flower petal puzzles. You would do that during that 9:30 to 10:15 or 9:15 to 10:15 block of time, as well as the game Power.pro. And then each day has its own discussion question for the closer, or it might not be just one question, it might be an extension of the activity to wrap it up. And that is what you will do during that closer time. So hopefully that helps to answer the question about the opener. So let's look at, so here again is the a snapshot of the scope and sequence. So you'll notice that there are pages in italics. The first page refers to the page in the grade level curriculum where you can find this activity. So for day 5, if I'm teaching target number, I'm going to go to page 59 in the matching grade level curriculum. So this is I think this is first grade's scope and sequence. So if I'm teaching first grade and it's day 5, my opener will be target number. I'm going to go to page 59 in the first grade Math for Love curriculum to find the lesson plan for how to teach that. Oops. You'll also notice down here for day 6, there's the page for the curriculum guide right here, page 64. But then next to that, it says supplemental worksheets, page 7 and 8 of this packet. So the scope and sequence is a multi-page document that also contains supplemental worksheets for games and activities that have either been split into more than one day, or there was another worksheet that was not included in the curriculum guide. So you'll scroll down in that scope and sequence document. You would scroll down to pages 7 and 8 to find the worksheet for .10 memory. And last, as I mentioned, oops, oh my goodness, I keep doing that. You can click the blue hyperlink and it will take you to the YouTube video, instructional video for how to play this game or do this activity. Okay. The lesson videos, so the videos that are hyperlinked serve different purposes for in-person and remote, very similar but slightly different. For both, if you're not sure what it would look like to teach this activity or to run this game, you might watch the video as like a mini professional development just to see how you might do that. For students who are at home, so if a student misses a day in person, you might have them watch this video to learn how to do the activity or play the game. Again, so you can assign to remote or to students if they've been absent or have them watch that. And then you can use the videos if you don't get to everything at the end of Summer of Learning. For remote, again, it is a good opportunity to learn how to teach the game or activity. There are lessons where it might make more sense to use the video to teach the lesson, in which case you would pause and ask questions and engage your students. So you're not just having them watch a YouTube video, but you're showing the setup, and then you might pause and ask a question, the questions that are in the lesson plan, right? So you're following along with the video as well as the lesson that is in the curriculum guide to be sure that you are still engaging the students with those questions. Again, it can be a double dose for students. And you can, the same thing. So assign if they've been absent and assign remaining lessons if you don't get to everything at the end of Summer of Learning. Okay, I think we have one more before we get to a question slide. So for assessment, as I mentioned, every grade level has a pre and post assessment. You will be getting a document from, or an Excel spreadsheet or some form of tracking document from your site coordinator. It should probably look like this. So in the blue, you see that this is for the ELA assessment, and in the green, this is for math. So you guys are teaching math, so you would put the date that you administered the pre-assessment and then put their score as a percentage, and then again for the post-assessment. So your job is to grade those and then add that information so that we can track how students are doing and progress that's being made. For kindergarten, as I mentioned, there is a separate assessment that is a PowerPoint, or it's a PDF of a PowerPoint on Schoology. That's because kindergarten assessments are interviews. So the PowerPoint with questions and a rubric is available on Schoology in that kindergarten folder. And if you need help administering your assessment interviews, if you have a lot of kids or it's taking longer than anticipated, your coaches have been told that they may need to help with that. So go ahead and ask for help from your coach if you're needing assistance in completing those. And Okay, question break. So let's see. How are we supposed to use the pre-assessment to inform our instruction? So let me see if I can pull up an example of one of the pre-assessments on Seesaw. The pre-assessments are, okay, let me see, I'll stop sharing this screen. Sorry, I was not planning to do this, so one moment. Stop presenting, share my screen, if it will let me. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Okay, so this is the first grade assessment. So it says how many dots, show how you figured out. For first graders and second graders, there's an option to click here to listen to the question read to them. So you'll look at this, and there isn't a document that directly, what am I trying to say? Like correlates this, like this question with X lessons from the curriculum, but it should give you an idea of almost all or all of the skills that are being covered in Math for Love. I think, so there's addition, some story problems. So really, I think more than knowing exactly, like if someone doesn't have the correct answer for number 10, then that means this, and I need to do X intervention. I think it's more about tracking progress. So after 19 days, I've delivered 3 or 4 lessons on story problems, and this student didn't quite understand number 10 on the pre-assessment. Now I'm checking to see, do they understand how to do, after those 3 or 4 lessons on story problems, are they more familiar with how to complete a problem like this after the 19 days? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that screen and go back to my PowerPoint. What are we supposed to use? Oh, I already read that. Where do we get the scope and sequence? That is on Schoology. So I can go back a slide or two once this opens back up. Come on, little computer, you can do it. I believe in you. Okay. All right, so the scope and sequence that looks like that, or that's a part of it, is available here on Schoology. So the kindergarten scope and sequence document is right there. So in your grade level folder on Schoology, you'll go to the math section and then find the sequence document. Let's see. Yes, Schoology is only for teachers and Seesaw is for students. You might also consider using Seesaw to model an activity, but there is not student work assigned on Schoology. That is correct. The pre-assessment will be day 1 and then day 2 if students haven't finished up. For kindergarten, you may need to do more days than that because they are those interviews. And again, your coach can help you with that. Is there enough time in the math teaching sequence schedule to give it during? Yes. So you will be assigning the pre-assessment and the post-assessment during your time with the students. So they will not be completing it at home. If your students are remote, you might consider having them work on it, like so toggle from the meeting to Seesaw and work on it while you're there to answer questions if they have them. But if you're in person, students are doing it while you are there, and remote is sort of up to you. We'll talk about that when we get to the Seesaw section, that it's up to your discretion whether or not you have students work on their Seesaw assignments while they're in the meeting, or if you have them log off and go do that for the 15 minutes. If students receive full credit on the pre-assessment, how do we track progress? good question. The questions are slightly more difficult on the post assessment. So, Tara, do you have any thoughts on that? If students receive full credit on the pre-assessment, how do we track progress?
Yeah, I think the pre and post assessment are just a check-in. So it's not, if they're doing really well at the beginning, there are ways to differentiate through the curriculum, but it's not high stakes or anything. So you can just give the pre and the post, and that can be your data for that student.
Perfect. Okay. And yes, so kindergarten does not have a CSAW, or well, there is a CSAW pre-assessment, but because students are doing that with you, you can just administer that in a meeting. If you'd like to assign it to them, you could, but it might be more difficult. They'd have to record themselves verbally answering the questions. Might be a little bit more difficult, but yes, just the interview. That's all you have for kindergarten for the assessment. And there's a rubric for how to score their responses. Okay, I think those are the only questions that I see for right now. We'll have one more chance for questions at the end. So we will go ahead and move on to an example game. So this game is called Fill the Stairs. And even if so let me back up. This slide looks a little different, right, than this one, because this is a screenshot from the second grade games and activities PowerPoint that is available on Schoology. So within that PowerPoint, as I said, there's a slide for each game and each activity. One of the games, if you are teaching second grade or first grade, that you will play with students is called Fill the Stairs. So here is the worksheet, the game sheet that students will play with. And here, if you choose to use the PowerPoint to model, you can click on, I'm trying to erase this circle that I just made, on these dice, and it will link you to a Google Dice roller. But essentially the way that you would play this game if you are modeling using the PowerPoint is you would share your screen so that students can see this. There are the directions over here. Roll 2 dice or click the dice right here to take you to a dice rolling website. And then within the PowerPoint, you can use the draw feature, which will be up in the upper left-hand corner, to record the 2-digit numbers you make. And then you can just follow along with, I don't know if everybody can see me, but here is the page from the Math for Love curriculum for Fill the Stairs. You don't really need to be able to see it, but if I was teaching this to you right now, if I was using this PowerPoint to model, I would still follow along with the lesson plan from the curriculum and ask the questions that are built in here as we play. So if you do not have a document camera, then this would be a good way to model how to play this game. I also mentioned that you can use Seesaw to model a lesson or an activity. So here's an example of what I mean. So this activity is pattern block fill-in. You could click on this Seesaw icon and it will take you to the Seesaw activity. I'm going to share that for a moment. Oops, that's not what I want. Okay, let me see. Sorry about that. It's taking a moment. Okay. Where is it? Oh, okay. Well, I'll go to it through here then. So I'm clicking on the Seesaw link in this PowerPoint to get it to share. had it pulled up, but for some reason it went away. Sorry about that. Okay, so here we go. So if you click on this, you save it to your teacher Seesaw account. So I would click Save Activity. It will add to my library. And oh my goodness. That was unexpected. Okay, here we go. So I would click here and I could either assign it or I can go to Edit. If I want to show my class the instructional video, I can come here and I can click the link and it will take me to the YouTube video. Or I can come down here and this is what students will see. So the first page on every Seesaw assignment is the opportunity or the option for students to use their camera to take a picture of their work that they've completed in their student packet. If they do not have their packet or they would rather complete the assignment on Seesaw, they can go to the next slides. And here's the worksheet. So in the middle, there's the worksheet that is the first page of pattern block fill-in. You can use the shapes on Seesaw to model how you might fill in the hexagon. So if you don't have pattern blocks or you don't have a document camera, you can show students how they might do this. You can model it for them on the Seesaw assignment. So I would copy and paste more blue rhombi, and show students how I might fill this in. And again, I'm following the lesson plan. So if I was actually teaching this right now, I would say, how many blocks do you think it would take me to fill in this hexagon before I've gone ahead and started filling it in? What's the greatest number I could use? What's the least number I could use? Students will not need these. It will tell you that in the lesson plan. But so you should be able to use this to model how you might fill in your pattern blocks. Okay, and then you can see the rest of the pages are here. All right. That is that. I'll go back to our PowerPoint. And we will go ahead and finish up in a moment. Well, in a few minutes. Sorry, this is taking a moment to load. There we go. Okay. So here we go. So that's how you might use Seesaw as a teacher to instruct. Otherwise, Seesaw it can be used for modeling, as I said. It's linked in that grade level PowerPoint. The biggest purpose of Seesaw is to hold remote students accountable. So you're assigning this and they are uploading a picture of their work or they're completing their work on the slides so that as a remote teacher, you know that they've been following along and doing the lessons with you, since, as we know, we can't be there with our remote students. So there's not a need to grade the Seesaw activities. I mean, look at them for your information, but you don't need, there's not a score recording sheet or anything like that. It's mostly for accountability. So within this Seesaw links document, you would click on the blue hyperlink and it will take you to that page that I showed you so that you can add the assignment to your Seesaw library and then assign it. Let's see. Again, there are pages that have Seesaw links, so they look like this, that are within this grade level PowerPoint. Okay. Support resources. So if you have questions that have not been answered, or if when we finish our meeting and you go to check out all of the resources that are available on Schoology and you find that you have more questions, tomorrow morning I will have an office hour from 9 to 10. And I will be available to answer questions as they arise. Your coaches are also available to answer questions all of the time, and again to help with kindergarten interviews if needed. Other, oh my gosh, I'm drawing all over this. Sorry about that. Other support resources, the grade level PowerPoint is a great way to familiarize yourself with some of the games and activities, as well as the lesson videos. So if you're feeling unsure about how you might teach pattern block fill-in, you can go to that video and watch it. Okay, let's see. Here are your coaches. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time going through each of these because you should have a copy of this PowerPoint. If you do not, it's available in the chat. Thank you for everybody who helped me out in getting that in there. So these emails and contact people should be in that PDF of that PowerPoint. And then last question opportunity. So let's see. If my remote class is a mixture of second and third, how do I teach both levels? Will students be mixed into grade levels for groups? So I think if you were teaching a 2-3, my suggestion would be that if you're able to, I would say, if you're able to do small groups, then I would have a group of second graders and a group of third graders, and you could deliver the second grade activity for day 1 to second graders, and then the third grade activity for day 1 to the third graders. If you are teaching whole group because you're the only adult in the classroom, I would say either choose both activities. So the second grade activity from whatever day you're on, teach that whole group, and then you could have your second graders go play a choice game on their own independently, and then the opposite. So maybe have third graders play independently a game at their seats, and then you could teach them the third grade activity. If you wanted to, you could do the second grade and the third grade activities whole group. And there will also be days where the activities are the same. So you could focus on those and try to do those whole group if you wanted. For in-person teachers, are we giving the pre and post assessment on Seesaw? No. In their student packets, kids have the pre and the post assessment at the beginning and the end of the packet. So you should be able to use that. And then if you want to just have them take it out and give it to you, you could do that. Is there a pre-assessment for first grade math? Yes, there is a pre-assessment for first grade math. It is linked. It is a Seesaw document, so if you're teaching remote, it is a Seesaw activity. If you are just looking to see what it looks like, it is in the first grade curriculum guide. So you can find it if you go to the table of contents for first grade Math for Love curriculum, you can click on the pre-assessment link and it will take you there to look at the pages. Does the kinder pre-assessment come with a sample script? And/or will we be able to talk with a coach before the first day? In terms of talking with a coach, yes, they should be available to answer questions. And the kinder pre-assessment come with a sample script. There are suggestions in the notes, I believe, correct, Tara? Yes. For
just questions you could ask.
Yeah. And then it's pretty short. It's just a few questions, so it shouldn't take too long, but it should give you some informative information. That's repetitive. Are IAs able to administer the math assessments? I don't see why not. There's not really, there's not a whole lot of teacher involvement, at least for second grade and first grade. For kindergarten, it would make sense to me if IAs did that. I guess it would depend on what plan you have with the other educators in your classroom. but it would make sense to me as you would just sort of be taking notes on what the responses were from the student and then scoring those based on the rubric that's available in the assessment. I think those are the only questions I'm seeing. If there are any others, you can join me tomorrow morning for that office hour for answering questions or chat with your coach. And other than that, thank you. Thank you for attending, but also thank you for bearing with us through some technical difficulties. And thank you for everybody who helped us out trying to get the PowerPoint to everyone. That is all that I have for you. I would suggest if you're able, if you have time, go check out the folders on Schoology, look through the curriculum guide, and maybe watch some of the videos if you have time or you're interested. That will give you a chance to come up with questions. Tara.
It might be helpful for a few people to stay behind and just have a slower walkthrough of how to access the Schoology resources, because that's where everything is.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that live. I can go on my Schoology.
Excuse me, can we put a code in there, because the code that's in the chat is not working. It will not let me join on Schoology with that current access code.
Okay, I'll look at it again.
That's the only access code I have. It may be that someone, let me check my email. It may say that I need to, admit people. Let's see, I'm going to stop presenting. So if you feel confident and you are ready to go check out the materials, go for it. If you would like to hang on for a moment and I can sort of navigate through Schoology to show you how you would find those things. You could also hang on. Let's see.
It might be you have to join the group, not the course. So the code might not be working if you tried to join a course instead of a group. So you're going join a group.
Yes. Okay. It looks like a lot of people have joined. Nice. Oh my gosh, so many. Awesome. Oh my gosh, my email is like it won't stop. Okay, fantastic.
So
I am
Brenda
go ahead.
again. So as a tutor last year, I did not have access to Schoology. Will I now be able to access it?
I'm not sure if tutors will have access, but
Okay.
anything you need, your teacher and your IA should take care of access. So
Awesome.
you don't have to worry about access.
Thank you.
Okay.
On my computer, there's already an access code in Schoology. Should I delete that one and put in the one you have in chat?
I think probably yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Okay. So I'm gonna go.
Rita, where do people get the link for the office hours with you tomorrow?
I was under the impression that it was being sent out by site leads, but I can put it into the chat right now. Let me click on this and copy the link. All right, let's see. Copy. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. I think that should work. I copy and pasted the hyperlink. That's correct. Oh yeah, there. Okay, now it's showing up. All right. So that
someone has a question about the assessment in the student packet doesn't match the curriculum. So which one should they use?
For second grade, yeah. So there's a note on the scope and sequence. The pre-assessment is, let me look, just a moment. The second grade seesaw activity and in the student packet, instead of having a different pre-assessment and post-assessment, they're the same. I forget if it is the post or the pre-assessment that was used. I think it's the post-assessment, which is why it does not match or line up, but it should match up with the post-assessment. Okay, I'm trying to get into Schoology as I talk so that I can show how to do that. Okay. Share my screen. Okay. Okay, so here is Schoology. I've already joined the group, so I would just go here and I would come to Summer Curriculum Materials for Seattle Schools. If you've not joined yet, then you would click here, My Groups, and click Join Group and enter that access code. Because I've already joined, I'm just going to go ahead here. And then here's the main page. I'm going to click on Resources. That's where I will find those folders for all of the K-5 grades, well, for all the grades, but for K2. So I click Resources, and all of these are available. So the kindergarten through 5th SEL lessons are in here. The kindergarten ELA and math are in the kindergarten folder. Same thing for first, there's ELA and math, and second, there's ELA and math. So if I click second grade, if I'm teaching math, I'm going to click Math Grade 2 Teacher Resources, click Teacher Curriculum Materials, and then these things should show up. So if I want to look at the second grade math activities and games PowerPoint that's available, as it loads, here we go. You might download a copy of it so that you can use it to model with your students if you'd like. Hold on a moment, people are waiting in the lobby. Okay. All right. So let's see, if you were looking to look at or if you're wanting to look at the second grade curriculum, you would click here and it will pull it up. You can download it if you'd like or print it. Once it loads, here we go. I'm going to zoom out. So here's the second grade Math for Love curriculum. I can scroll down and look at the table of activities. So the nice thing about this is that they are linked to pages later in the document. So if I click on pre-assessment, it will take me here. This is the second grade pre-assessment. This is also what it looks like in the student activities. So if I close that, or in the student packet, I mean. Here is the paper packet that students will receive. Let's see once this loads. Okay, so it looks like this. There's a checklist of materials. And then here is so you'll notice for second grade at the top, instead of pre-assessment, it says post-assessment on accident. It should be okay. It's really just to track growth. So yes, students will have done these questions before when it comes to the actual post-assessment, not the pre-assessment. But it will have been, 4 weeks before. So really, we're just trying to track growth and gather information. So this is in their student packet. And then as they go down, so here's a worksheet for the pattern block triangles, the games that they'll play. here's another, so this is the day 3 activity, flower petal puzzles. That's in the student packet. If I want to look at how to teach flower petal puzzles, I want to watch the video, I can come to this teaching sequence document, and I can come down here and find flower petal puzzles and click the link, and it will take me to the YouTube video. Okay, I'm not going to play that, but that's how you would find it. Okay. Are there other questions about Schoology and how to navigate? Oops. That. Yeah, Susan?
So I put it in the chat, but I was able to download my PowerPoint for 2nd grade, and I went in, and then there was it said click on this to go to Seesaw. So I was looking at the demonstrating the pattern block piece, but when I click into the Seesaw, and I clicked on the summer activities, it basically I couldn't find. It didn't take me to the actual stuff I needed to go to.
Did you save it to your Seesaw activity library?
I couldn't find it to save it to my library. When I was looking through to find it, it didn't go exactly to that one. It just went to it had different links, and one of them was summer school activity, or whatever it was. So I clicked on that, but I didn't see what I was looking for.
Which page was it that you were trying to click on?
Let me
From
go
the
back
2nd
to my
grade PowerPoint.
It's the one that's let me go back to the pattern block triangles, I think.
Okay. Okay. Oh. I wonder, do the other?
And you have to be in play mode for it to, play the slideshow mode to have the links work, which I did. But I downloaded the PowerPoint and was going from the downloaded version of it.
Okay, let me look. Let me see if I can figure it out. Okay. Pattern block triangles. Let's see. So when I click on it, it says, this is what it shows me.
Okay, so, and with that, then you go ahead and save the activity to the library. Okay, I'm good then.
Okay.
I think I ended up seeing something else, but that'll work. Thanks.
Okay, great. Were there other questions?